All right, so we are live again here for a review of the real estate numbers that made up our Denver metro area for May. And joined as always, as we review these numbers with Brenna with Land Title. And as a recap, right, for those that aren't, probably regular scheduled viewers, tell us a little bit about your company, and why, you're qualified to share this information.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm Brenna Harper. I'm a sales rep at Land Title Guarantee Company. We have been in Colorado for over 60 years. Over 50 years, since 1967. And we're one of the largest title companies in Colorado. And we're locally owned and operated, which is really awesome. So we have over 50 locations here in Colorado, and we all live here and work here. So I love that we are a local company that is contributing to the real estate community. So we pull this data, seven major metro Denver counties, say that 5 times fast, every month, and put together a report to help agents like Matt and our other clients and consumers just keep pace of what's going on in the market. And then Matt and I just talk through it to make it into bite-sized pieces and kind of interpret that data. So what's going on more than just what you see on social media or maybe what the news is saying about national real estate. Something I think most of us know is that real estate is nothing if not local. So having that specific data, we'll talk Denver Metro on the whole, and then ways to get down into your specific segment, and sometimes even neighborhood, to make sure that you're looking at the correct data for your specific situation.
Yeah, very much so, right? Real estate is very hyper local. There can be things going on around the corner, down the block, that may not impact real estate. You may see that particular listings or segments of homes that are on the market are going to sit and not fly off the market. It's just kind of the nature of how real estate goes, right? So let's jump into the numbers. If you got your screen ready to go.
Yep. Share screen.
So while you're pulling up that, right, last episode I asked Mitch about pineapple on pizza, but I'm going to ask you something slightly different. What is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Oh, gosh. I think chocolate chip cookie dough and mint chocolate chip are always, I will never say no to either one of those. But there's also moose tracks and some different crazier ones that are really good too.
Yeah, I'm with you on the chocolate chip cookie dough and the mint chocolate chip. So, all right, let's pop this one up, and if you can make the screen a little bigger, we could get a good.
You need new glasses?
Maybe, right? I'm just trying to accommodate for the masses. So let's talk about the highlight reel. And as we talk into that, I had a feeling, and I said this earlier on in a previous episode that you and I did, that I thought real estate was going to start to balance out a little bit. And I had a feeling that the market was starting to balance out here for May. That's not quite what it looks like occurred, right? Tell me about this. And my prediction may not be wrong yet. We still have 7 months worth of housing to go through. So,
yeah. So, if you were here last month, we talked about inventory, and I was all excited because we had 310 more homes on the market than we did in March. And unfortunately, that was short-lived, and we're down 75% year over year. We're down about 900 homes month over month. So that tiny little bit that we had an uptick, it just went in the wrong direction in a bigger way.
I think everybody was watching your video or our video last month and decided to go out and buy homes.
I know. So, kicking myself for that one. I was really hopeful that, didn't expect there to be thousands of homes coming on the market, but almost 1,000 home deficit is definitely not what I wanted. So, because it's all about me, but it is what it is. Speed of the market. So days in MLS or days on market. So agents typically put their homes in the multiple listing service. So this metric is from when it goes active to when it goes under contract, and the average days that takes place, it's down 47%. It's about 12.5 days as far as days on market. And I'll show you another graph that shows you how historically low that is. And I've been talking a few months now about the median days on market is still sitting right at about 4 days. So you may hear 12 and a half days and say that feels really long, but it's an average. 4 days is very, very quick as a median, and it just means things are moving extremely quickly. Inflated prices because of the demand being so high, the inventory being low. Average sold price is up 26% year over year, into the high 600s as for the full Metro Denver. So just shy of that 700 mark, and reaching 700 or continuing to be in the 700s for a few of our counties that we can break down here in a little bit.
So before we move forward there, right, the more books that you read on real estate and real estate investing, et cetera, they say, you should expect maybe a 4 to 5% appreciation each year on real estate. So we're 26%. That's 5 years worth of growth happening in 12 months time. That's just huge increases. And honestly, why we see a lot of folks that have decided to sit on the sidelines and wait for this game to slow down, maybe missing out entirely, because this game may not slow down enough. And when it does slow down, we may have a new baseline, right? The baseline may have been here a year ago. If we were waiting for this market to crash and correct before we bought real estate, now the new baseline might be here when it balances out. That's a huge number.
It's a huge number. And something to keep in mind is this is year over year. So this is May to May. So typically, and I'm going to pop over here really quick so you can see this. So typically our market is a little bit more cyclical. So even if the general trajectory is going up, we'll see typically in like the last part of summer into that kind of the holiday season, maybe prices dip a little bit, but overall we're still seeing that appreciation. So it may not be for the full year to date, year over year, that we're getting 26% appreciation year over year. But from this time last year, or from, May 2020 to May 2021, we're up 26%. So just something to keep in mind it's definitely, like Matt said, it's still an extremely strong inflation, and the market is trending very, very high. But if at the end of the year, you're seeing that Denver on the whole appreciated 10%, that's still incredibly good, with the national average being 4. It may not be quite as high as this 26%, just on how things are calculated.
Yeah, it's running on a treadmill for a marathon at Usain Bolt paces, it feels like.
Yeah. And then this next one, the competition. So the average percent of sold to list price. So what the home is listed at versus what it's sold for is 106%. So if the home is $500,000, this 106% says that it's going to sell for $530,000 as an average. That's very crazy.
And the average is, again, we talk about the differences between average and the median, right? The average is going to take what the high end did, what the low end did, and all the numbers in between, right? And average those out between all the sales. So I'm curious if Land Title maybe next month has, a median number for that, but
For
106% for the
yeah,
average list to sold price.
I can probably get that.
Yeah, the average at 106, and I've been watching this over my career, and it's hovered around 96, 97, 98, sometimes up to 99 for very short periods of time.
Yeah.
106 is really just an incredible number.
It is. And then I'm sure there's some people that are listening or hear this and they're saying, for as crazy as it may sound, only at 30,000, I heard my neighbor got 75,000 or 100,000, because we are having those cases as well. And keep in mind that this is an average. So there are homes that are going to go for less than asking. There's homes that are going to go for at asking. And then there's going to be those astronomically high. But considering that the average is 6% over, or 106% of that list price, that's showing you how many homes are going very aggressively for over list price.
Yeah, so there's always going to be the ones that are going at or below, so the ones that you hear are, and I don't want to say the outliers, but they're definitely bringing that average up, right?
Yep.
So that's how the law of averages works out.
And like I mentioned before, we took another dip, unfortunately, and a little bit unseasonal. Typically, we don't see the dip until later in the summer. Now, we have talked about, we kind of peaked high. So are we going to fizzle high, or we peaked soon? So are we going to fizzle soon? That it looks like maybe that might happen here with some other indicators and just kind of the feel of what we're seeing in the last few weeks. But typically right now we're kind of in the peak of when people are putting their home on the market because kids are out of school, the grass looks good. It's after Mother's Day, so hopefully it's not going to snow anymore. But that's not what we saw in May. So we'll see what happens next month. But I'm hoping it doesn't continue to go down. But at this point, my guess is as good as any, I guess.
Well, we'll get to this, I think, in later slides. And I want to point this out, right? Just because there's low inventory does not mean that homes are not coming on the market.
Right.
Homes are absolutely coming on the market. And it's proven by the number of solds that we have. And that number increased over last year, which was a record for the Denver metro area in resale homes in the sale of real estate, right? So we're trending above last year, which was a record. It means all these homes that are hitting onto the market, they are flying off because there are more buyers than what we have for inventory.
And we did see less new homes come on the market this month or in May than we did in April. But basically how the active number is calculated is at any given point, how many homes are active on the market. So the new homes coming on the market subtracted by any that have been pending and what is available. So if you looked at this today versus if you looked at it tomorrow, they might be slightly different. But basically with it being so low, we're just absorbing any new inventory quicker than we can put it back on the market. So that's why we continue to see it go down, which is why things are so competitive. And we are receiving $158,000 more as an average this May versus last May. So a lot of times we talk about, having those buyers that say, I just want to save a little bit more, or I'm just going to wait for the market. And that's a big chunk of change to come up for in a month or a year. Even attached, it's $75,000. So that's, again, talking about that appreciation and competitiveness. That's a big number.
Yeah, and most folks, right? When I say most folks, when the median income for a household is lower than those numbers, it's a game that people just can't play catch up, right? They're not going to save a bigger down payment so they have a lower monthly payment. They're still going to have the same house. They're still going to have the same house payment. They're still going to be in the same price range. They're just going to be at a much lower quality, maybe not an ideal location, or a smaller home. And maybe that's the difference of going from a detached single family home where you've got a yard and a fence and you're not sharing walls to you have to live in a condo or a townhome. And that's a big sacrifice for some folks. So getting into the game now while we know what it's going to be in the inventory, I don't see this freight train slowing down anytime soon. And it's certainly not about to crash. It's a game I think, some folks need to get into quickly because it may be sacrificing too much later.
Well, and, I think while this can seem discouraging if you're thinking about buying, it can also be really empowering because if you're buying a home and maybe, like Matt said, something's changed. So typically, right, you have to change location, price, or quality, or, the condition, if you're trying to adjust what you can afford, what you feel comfortable with, where you want to be. If you can get into a home and build some equity, even if it's not ideal in all three of those kind of areas, in just a couple of years, you could have some really fantastic equity that you could then use to build to buy another home. I know that's what I did when I started. I know that's what Matt did when he started. I definitely did not buy my dream home by any stretch of the imagination, but it allowed me to have some really fantastic equity in less than 3 years to purchase another home and have a very similar payment. So, sometimes that can be difficult. You want the granite countertops and you want the wood floors, or you want to be in Jefferson County, whatever that looks like for you. But using it more as an investment strategy could be a way to help you navigate some of this affordability.
Yeah, and we just had this conversation with some buyers that we were representing about buying a house that was slightly out of the geographic area that they wanted to be. Now, it didn't add much to the commute. The commute was actually going to be pretty similar to other homes we were looking for. Just wasn't an area that they were typically looking, but it was quite a bit under where we had been looking at other real estate. And to live under their means over the long term is going to benefit them when it comes to keeping that property as a rental, selling it and buying the next property, taking the same budget that they would have spent on that more expensive home and reinvesting it into a 401k or a self-directed IRA or whatever you want to utilize that vessel for, or build a bigger safety net. I mean, the folks that are taking the opportunity to make some initial sacrifices are going to set themselves up for a longer piece. And that sacrifice may be, I live in a house that doesn't have AC for a little bit, and that might be unfortunate. That might just be where I have to go to get into where I want to be. And that was me for a very long time. The first house I bought did not have air conditioning that worked. Come to find out from my friends who bought the house, everything was set up and ready to go for the AC unit, and they just had to buy, a different condenser, a different piece that made it all work. It ended up being relatively inexpensive, so breaks my heart that I had to suffer through those long hot summers with no AC. But again, I was living below my means. It set me up for the next home and the home after that.
And maybe it's not even your personal home. Maybe you utilize this as an investment strategy. And it's a second home or a third home or whatever that looks like. And not necessarily a home, but a house that you can rent out or Airbnb or whatever that looks like as another investment leg or another investment strategy. So just something to consider. And I'm sure we could talk about that for a full hour.
We could dive in. We could dive into that all day long, right? When we take a look at a friend of ours who has a property that rents out the basement on Airbnb, and one of the demographics that rents out her house for a month or so at a time are mothers who have daughters who are expecting, right? Their daughters had moved here to the Denver metro area, and they want to fly in and visit as the daughter's expecting. Interesting demographic, right? And now
Yeah.
is there some inconvenience with somebody living in your basement? Yeah, maybe a little, right? Does it work out for her? Is it advantageous? Yeah, probably, right? So, there are things that can be done to get into home ownership and to make it more affordable. Long story short, I
Mostly
think that's
long.
that's the point we're trying to make.
Yes. Okay, so this is the market snapshot that we look at every month. This is detached and attached single family together. So the green is active, blue is pending or under contract, and the red is sold. So as we mentioned before, unfortunately, that green that took a little bit of an uptick in April is down under 2,000 again, at 1,900, which just breaks my heart a little bit. But we are seeing pendings up. And that's probably from that little bit of a spike, we use that term loosely, spike in active inventory last month. And then solds are the lagging indicator. So they were a little bit more flat this month, that if you look back from pending, that makes a little bit more sense. But, there's some interesting dynamics going on. Matt and I were talking that, as the pendings go up and the actives go down and that space gets bigger, that's a more competitive market. And some of these crazy numbers with over asking price and slower days or faster days on market that we're seeing. But then we're feeling some things that are a little bit different, even just 8 days into June. I've talked to some colleagues and some different people in the industry, and the last couple of weekends have been a little bit slower. So yes, this is great data. Yes, this shows a little bit of a roadmap and gives us a good pinpoint, but things do change frequently. And I think that they're already changing from end of May.
Yeah, and when we talk about changing, and I think I've gotten this question 2 or 3 times today talking with clients, is it going to be a bad time to list in July compared to right now? And the answer is no. Again, I don't have a crystal ball. Things may absolutely change between now and then. It takes something dramatic, but there's still a lot of buyers in the inventory, still a lot of buyers looking for homes. They're still filling out credit applications for mortgage approval. So this is going to take some time before this balances out to where it really is more of an even playing field. And then I think history would say it doesn't stay balanced for long. It's not like it's several years of it balanced. It's going up and it's going down and it's going up and it's going down.
Yep, absolutely. So like we talked about last month, 2020 is not really a great indicator of anything that we want to repeat in all senses of 2020. No, I'm just kidding. But as far as like trends and what we're typically seeing in the market, 2019 would probably be a better indication. So last month we were more on par with that kind of cycle of what we're used to seeing in 2019. Now in May, we're seeing that unseasonal drop in active inventory and the pendings go up. So it's doing kind of a different thing than we're used to seeing. So we'll see if that was just kind of an anomaly for this month, and then it kind of goes back to that trend line, or if we're in for kind of an earlier end to the buying season or selling season, however you want to look at it, because we started out so strong, and we have been so strong for the last several months. So we'll see what all of that looks like as we continue into the summer.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think that's where, my prediction, when we did that last, maybe that wasn't the last episode, but a previous episode, right? There's only so many homes that will transact in a calendar year. So, did we see that bigger spike, and we're going to start to see things slow down is a little bit sooner than we typically would.
Yeah. And I think there's a several factors that would play into that. Obviously, inventory is very low, but demand is very high. But then you also have people that are wanting to enjoy actually having a summer. They're going camping or to the pool, or doing barbecues instead of going out and looking at homes. Maybe they're exhausted from putting in more offers than they typically would have to. So some buyer fatigue. We've seen buyer fatigue every year. Typically, we just see it a little bit later and it doesn't last for as long. So again, I think there's enough of a pent up of demand to Matt's point. If you're wanting to list in July or even into September, is it a good time? Yeah, it is. Should you take the exact same strategy as someone that was listing in February and March? No, probably not. That doesn't mean that you're not going to get a great price for your home. It doesn't even mean you may still get multiple offers. You may only get one really amazing offer. But making sure that you're keeping track of the market. I hear a ton. Well, my neighbor got this for their home, or they got this many offers or whatever. And that could be last month or that could be last year. And as you can see, things change extremely quickly. Matt mentioned things are very fluid. So I think it's a great time to sell. I think it's a great time to buy if it makes sense for you and the people in your life. But making sure that you're doing that in line with what the market's saying right now and not what the market was saying in the past.
Well, and for the buyers that are in the market, I would say be patient, and not patient as in sit on the sidelines. We'll see what happened. I mean, we saw what happened for the folks that chose to sit on the sidelines and not participate last year. But there will be an opportunity to get it purchased, even for the first-time home buyers that don't have all of the cash, even for the loan options that typically sellers or listing agents may not like as much, and that's a whole nother topic that I can get on my soapbox on and get to. But have a little bit of patience, because there will be new homes hitting the market every day, and there will be more homes that sat for a couple of days and maybe a week, and wow, now all of a sudden there's an opportunity where I don't have to sign over my firstborn and give cut my hand and give blood kind of a deal in order to get this, and donate my Broncos season tickets to the seller, right? I mean, all of those things that we've kind of heard over this crazy time.
Absolutely. We've talked a lot about active inventory, so I don't want to spend a ton of time on this one, but just to show you historically, we have 7,600 less homes on the market than we did in May of 2019. So we have 1,900 homes on the market. Balance would be probably for Denver around 20,000. So we're nowhere near balanced, even if, like Matt and I have been talking about, a little bit of a slowdown or anything like that. It's not like the bottom's going to drop out, more than likely. It would actually be a really, really great thing if we had some more inventory. So don't be afraid of it if it comes. It's welcome for sure.
Yeah, and as we look back in 2019, by comparison, 9,600 homes seems like an avalanche of new homes. We were still in a seller's market with 9,600 homes on the market.
Yeah, we were about half of what we would need to feel balanced, just to put that in perspective. And then, month supply of inventory kind of goes hand in hand with what we were talking about. So if no more homes were to come on the market, how quickly would the inventory be absorbed? We're at about 0.37, which I did the math here. That's about 11 days, which is down from 15 from last month. So that's extremely tight. Adams and Broomfield are the tightest supply of inventory, with about a week.
Yeah. Not much else to say. I mean, it's just, we need more homes on the market. Obviously, we need the buyers to buy those homes, but for those who have been kind of sitting on the fence, And there's a lot of folks that are looking at moving out of state, right? They're saying, hey, this isn't what I want to, this isn't where I want to be. This isn't what I want to do. I want to be closer to, kids, grandkids, closer to the beach, whatever. A lot of folks that are going that route and putting their home on the market. We just need, some more inventory.
Absolutely. So to kind of circle back from a few things that we've talked about already, days in MLS or days on market, 12.5 days, that feels really long comparative to what we're talking about with how fast and how aggressive things are going. But if you look at May last year, it was 24 days, and that was pretty slow. And then the year before that, 24 and a half days. And this is all historically very slow. Anything under 30 and even under 40 is historically very, very slow. So to get down into less than 2 weeks as an average, that's why it feels the way it does. But to Matt's point about homes that have been on the market for maybe a couple of days, that's pretty real, right? Like if you don't price your home correctly, because buyers are still very aware of value, if you price your home too aggressively for the condition or whatever, if something doesn't add up, the buyers are going to reject that. And if you don't make a very quick price correction, it may stigmatize your property, because if the home is on the market for longer than a weekend, in most cases, if it makes it through the weekend and onto the next weekend and buyers see it again when they're looking to schedule their showings, the first thing that's going to come into their mind is what's wrong with it. And there might be nothing wrong. It might have just been priced a little bit out of the market, but they're going to start thinking, structural or location or this and that. And you don't, as a seller, want that on your home. So pricing correctly the first time obviously is extremely important, because more times than not, that's going to be your best opportunity to get the highest and best offers. And if you miss the mark a little bit, making that quick correction will make sure that you get the most amount of money in your pocket. On the flip side of that, if you're a buyer and you're looking at homes that have been on the market for only a week or two, there may be some opportunity there for you to be in a less competitive situation.
Yeah. This question has come up in the past, right? When we talk about making price corrections, right? So we started too high. The market said, I don't see the value for it. So we need to make a correction. And, a question will come up occasionally. Well, won't that send the wrong message, right? Shouldn't we just wait? And the answer to that is no. When the data tells you need to make a change, you need to make a change and make a change quickly. Now, what I've seen happen more often, especially here over the last 12, 15 months, especially for the buyers we've worked with, we've looked and taken that strategy of let's find the ones that were on the market. I've seen the ones where they've made a $20,000 price reduction, and then all of a sudden now there's multiple offers and we're right back to where they were before, now competing and seeing those multiple offers. So, the old philosophy of, well, let's start high because we can always come down. Well, you better come down into the market quickly when the market tells you, because waiting for that mythical right buyer to just come along and overpay for the house, it doesn't happen. They're always going to be looking at the information and saying, it's been on the market for 3 weeks. They don't have any offers. I don't have to give them list price either. Let's see how much we can negotiate.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to jump here. Well, I'll touch on this really quick because I just think it's interesting. Let me get to the right slide here. So this is month supply of inventory versus days on market. Typically, the last several years, we have been in a seller's market, but when we get into that luxury market, so for Denver Metro, million plus, that is a different story. Typically, that has been more of a buyer's market because there's less people playing in that space. So it's very, very interesting. And we talked about this last month as well, that we're in a seller's market until we hit 3 million plus, which is pretty incredible. So even at a million to 2 million, we're at only a month of inventory.
Yeah, and even in that 3 million, I think you would still classify that as a seller's market, given what it is historically. I know it's just over the 6, but it's still dramatically low. I remember seeing that number as high as 24-ish months not that long ago.
Right. And to that point, if we look across on the 3 million with the average days on market being 8, because there is less price, there's less data points. If one home in that price point sells in just a couple of days, it really, really skews the data. So I'm sure next month that will be higher, but that one just fluctuates a lot because there's less data points. So if you're questioning why the 3 million is moving so much quicker than the 2 million, maybe a lot of those California buyers came in this month and just swooped them all up. But this is just an interesting one to look at for sure.
Month supply of inventory, we don't get to 1 month of inventory till we're 1 million plus. Everything else below that is less than a month's worth of inventory.
Yep. So this is how many homes are sold. So typically we don't get to the 5,000 homes sold until May. So this would kind of be like the start. If we're looking back at 2019, this is kind of like our peak time, and then going down from there. But as you can see, we hit 5,000 in March, and we didn't go down. We're still up 1% month over month, but there is a little bit of a flattening in the sold. So to Matt's point earlier, are we going to see it slow down a little bit in May? So technically, Matt, you were wrong. It did not slow down, it slowed down, but it's still going up in May, just at a quicker or a slower pace. So we'll see. We'll see what happens in the next couple of months as far as what those trend lines do.
Yeah.
And then one that I think is interesting here, and definitely something to keep in mind, is our average sold price. So as we talked about before, it is cyclical. So even though we're seeing those peaks and valleys, the trend line is continuing to go up. So month over month, we're only up 0.2%. So as an example, from April to May, or in April, we were up month over month $26,000 of appreciation. This month, we're only up $1,400. So that would be something, if I was having a conversation with sellers about how aggressive we can be and what that looks like. Now, this is only one data point, and this is across all of the detached single family in Greater Metro Denver. So it really depends on where you are, but this is just one that I'm like, okay, that might be something that we need to look at and take into account when we're building our strategy.
Yeah, for the visual representation, right? We started with little foothills as we go back in the years, and now we're in the Mount Everest kind of a level for the difference in there.
And we're up almost 30% year over year in sold price. So again, it's not a bad investment. It's not a bad time to sell. It's just, listening to the data so you can make the best decision.
Yep.
And then this is sold units year to date. So gray is the prior year and red is the current year. Limiting factors obviously being inventory for sure, and some affordability, and some of the other things that we've mentioned. We'll see what this looks like. Right now, year to date, we are up. So year to date, January through May 2021, we're up 24% compared to last year. I would be shocked if we stay that high above 2020 when we get to December, just because I do feel like we are flattening out a little bit. Doesn't mean we won't still have a great year. We might even be up from last year, even though some economists said, kind of to Matt's point, of there's only so many number of homes you can sell in a year. So I'm interested in that. I'm interested to see if we come out ahead, how far, what the second half of the year looks like. I don't know.
Yeah, we're you're not in the business of making predictions.
No.
I go out on a limb every once in a while and say, here's what I think. Yet, when we take a look at the data is telling us a story, and anything that we're predicting for the future is purely speculation, right? We can absolutely be incorrect on it. But it's been interesting to see what's gone on. And last year, in the thick of the coronavirus, when folks were asking me, how is this impacting the real estate market? I said, well, here's what's going on right now. And truth be told, we'll have to be 18 months to 2 years on the other side of it before we really have an idea of what's gone on. And that's where, we're not through it yet. This is still happening, right? Mask mandates are kind of lifting here in the Denver metro area, finally. So we're getting closer to the end of it than when we first began. We'll see how the rest of this year plays out and how it impacts the real estate market. This can be something that, becomes a study years from now as to how it impacted real estate.
Absolutely. And this is the last one I want to talk about. And we have touched on it already, but just to see that visual representation, Matt mentioned before that it was very uncommon in past years for us to even graze that 100% of sold to list price. And then you can see basically from the second half of last year and then through this year, we've just kind of skyrocketed as far as that percent sold to list price. So this is really unprecedented as far as the average sold to list price. And I think a lot of us would be okay with this coming down a little bit.
Yeah, it'll make the real estate market a little more predictable, right? I was chatting with a business partner of mine here with the Ben Kinney team, who I've recently joined and partnered with, about an investment property that a seller's hired us to sell, and we're talking through it, and she's like, well, will the market bring X, which is what the seller kind of needs? And I said, in this market, I have no idea. It's possible. We're just going to have to put it to the market and let the market determine where it ultimately goes. But it could, based on where the market is shown right now, I would say no, but I hope I'm wrong for his case. I hope he gets all of the money and, it works out in his favor.
Well, and it is interesting, talking about really breaking it down as far as we can. So if we're looking detached single family, if you look on this left-hand side, under the 300,000 mark, we are under 100%. 99% for the 200, and then lower under 200,000. And most of the time, not all of the time, that's a lot of investment opportunities in that arena, especially with the average price point being where it is. And most of the time, investors aren't willing to compete at the same level because they're all about dollars and cents. And they don't have that emotional attachment to it. It's not their home. It's a business decision. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And having it be at 99% is still really good. So, again, take it with a grain of salt, but just knowing there is a little bit. And then if we look up here for this month and 3 million, it's 106%. So you're just shaking your head, only in Colorado, right?
Yeah. And contrary to what you'll see on HGTV, true investors are really looking at the numbers and looking at the deal. They don't, real true investors, savvy investors are not getting caught up in the emotion behind it. Contrary to what you see on HGTV when, they're there for entertainment.
Absolutely.
I poke at HGTV, and I know, Brenna, you're an HGTV watcher. It is entertainment there for you, but, I get to poke fun on it. Not something that I typically watch. It's certainly not a research material for me in our data and what's going on in the market.
Yeah, don't set your expectations for the buying and selling process by HGTV. That's for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt. So now, as we wrap up and we're heading into summer, right? I'm gonna put you on the spot here. What are you looking forward to the most for maybe summertime traditions that maybe COVID and the world getting shut down last year got robbed from you?
I think I am definitely a summer lover. I love the sun. I love the water. Um, I love that it's bright outside until almost 9 o'clock. So even just barbecues and being outside with friends and family, getting to connect and going to the pool with our son. He is a total water baby. So we got to experience a little bit of that last year with him, but he's at a really fun age right now. So I think just, I've always appreciated summer, and I think now appreciating it even more, just nothing fancy, just getting out in the sunshine, enjoying Colorado weather, and trying not to complain that it's too hot, since I've been asking it to not be too cold. So
Yeah, it seems again, as Colorado typically does, spring is wet and it's kind of warm. It's either one or the other, and then all of a sudden, boom! Here's summer, and we're 90 plus degrees. So
yeah, I got in my
um,
car today and it said 102. So that was fun.
yeah, so remote starter to start the air conditioning unit before you get to it. Spoil yourself. And I think the summer barbecues are what I'm looking forward to the most, right? Getting a chance to hang out with friends. We don't have to worry about, right, 6 feet apart as much. We don't have to worry about, the conversation only revolving around the coronavirus. So I think that, the conversations are opening back up, which is fantastic. You and I were hanging out with some friends, and I don't think coronavirus came up, in those conversations. And, it's the first time in a long time. So looking forward to that. I know we're not at the end of this. We're still going to see this come up. Conversations are still going to be there. It's still a real thing. It's not behind us by any means, but I'm looking forward to those summer barbecues.
Bring your sunscreen.
Yes, I need the sunscreen. I attract sunburns, like ants to honey for sure. So cool. Well, for those that have been watching and tuning in, and again, I so appreciate you guys watching. This is why we're doing what we're doing. Again, Brenna and I want to be the resource for you for the right information, the real information as to what's going on in the market, so that you can be armed to make proper decisions. So if there are specific questions for specific neighborhoods, specific segments, within the market, let's dive down and look into those, so that we can get a good idea what's happening in your neighborhood. So, Brenna, anything you want to end with?
No, I think happy summer, happy June, and we'll see you next month.
All right. Thanks again, Brenna. I appreciate it.
See you later.
All right. Bye, y'all.